Your roadmap to the latest in auto? Welcome to Highway Herald. 2025 roared into gear with a full-blown economic showdown. President Trump didn't just shift gears, he dropped the clutch and floored it. By slapping a staggering 145% tariff on Chinese imports, he reignited a global trade war that's now burning hotter than a race-tuned V8. But this time, the sparks aren't just flying between the US and China. Longtime allies like the European Union and Canada are now questioning their place in the American convoy. With over $1 trillion in trade hanging in the balance, the global alliance map is being redrawn, and not in Washington's favor. Here's a breakdown of the pivotal shifts steering this economic realignment. Number 4. When allies become adversaries. The tariff that backfired. The April 2025 tariff blitz hit like a piston misfire, jolting the global trade engine and sending shockwaves well beyond Beijing. President Trump's move slapped a 145% tariff on a broad spectrum of Chinese imports, striking critical sectors such as electronics, steel, chemicals, and precision tech components. Trump framed it as a national security maneuver, aiming to corner China into submission. But instead of tightening the screws, he triggered a full-blown economic chain reaction. Wall Street felt the tremors almost instantly. Markets nosedived, oil prices tumbled, and Asian indices suffered their worst weekly losses since the 2008 financial crash. Within hours, China fired back with a sweeping 125% tariff on all US goods, vowing it was ready to fight to the end. But China didn't stop at defense. It went into high-gear diplomacy. President Xi Jinping reached out to Spain's Pedro Sanchez, calling for global resistance to US bullying. His message, "There will be no winners in a tariff war," resonated deeply throughout Europe. And as China's message gained traction, another group of traditional allies began doing some serious soul-searching: Canada and the EU. Number 3, Canada and Europe. From caution to consideration. America's most reliable trading partners, Canada and the European Union, are now questioning the strength of their longtime alliance. Combined, they account for more than $1 trillion in annual trade with the US. But Trump's erratic economic maneuvers are straining that relationship like a worn-out clutch. Canada, historically tied to the US through steady trade in oil, natural gas, and hydroelectric power, is now watching the situation unfold with mounting unease. What was once a smooth economic highway is becoming a road filled with potholes. Ottawa is actively exploring alternative routes, building pipelines, LNG terminals, and trade deals aimed at Asian and European buyers. Public sentiment is shifting just as fast. Recent polls show 60% of Canadians favor investing in export infrastructure that reduces reliance on US markets. Across the Atlantic, Europe's frustration is growing louder. Tariffs on cars, agricultural products, and electronics are rattling the continent's industrial core. French President Emmanuel Macron described Trump's 90-day tariff pause as fragile, while internal EU memos increasingly reference a need to diversify trade away from US dependence. Trust is the transmission fluid of global commerce, and right now, it's leaking fast. As confidence in Washington stalls, both Canada and the EU appear to be downshifting into a new economic alignment, one few would have predicted just a few years ago. Before we delve deeper into the rising momentum behind this global pivot, hit that subscribe button to support Highway Herald. Your subscription keeps our engines running and brings you the latest in global auto and trade developments. With that, let's accelerate into China's next move, which is turning heads across the automotive world. Number 2. China's strategic lane change. Economic gains over ideology. While Trump navigates the US into economic turbulence, China is cruising steadily in the opposite lane, poised, patient, and undeniably strategic. Beijing's charm offensive has picked up speed, reaching power centers from Madrid to Riyadh and laying the groundwork for a more balanced, multipolar global trade landscape. And here's the twist: it's working. China's grip on key industries like EV batteries, rare earth minerals, and solar technology is drawing the attention of countries looking to hedge against Washington's unpredictability. European automakers, particularly from Germany and France, are ramping up their Chinese operations, seeing expansion there as a safeguard against future disruptions in US policy. Meanwhile, Canada is pivoting its gaze toward fossil fuel exports. With nearly $100 billion in energy revenue in 2024, most of it previously headed south, Beijing's offer of stable long-term contracts is a tempting alternative. Of course, doing business with China comes with baggage. Human rights concerns and intellectual property disputes remain unresolved. But in an era where economic security often outweighs ideological discomfort, many nations are opting for pragmatism. It's less about loyalty and more about logic. As these shifts solidify, the looming question becomes unavoidable. Can the US keep up, or is it losing grip on the global wheel? Number 1, can the US hold its position in the trade fast lane? The trillion-dollar question looming over this global trade upheaval is whether the US can maintain pole position in the fast lane of international commerce. President Trump insists that America is merely revving up for a comeback, but the dashboard is lighting up with warning signs. Global markets are stuttering, investor confidence is waning, and longtime allies are glancing nervously toward the exit ramp. Even a seemingly modest 5% decline in trade from the EU or Canada could result in hundreds of billions in lost revenue over the next decade. And that's not just an abstract hit, it's the realignment of global supply chains, the relocation of manufacturing hubs, and the rerouting of energy exports toward more dependable partners. Every time a contract skips over the US, its trade leadership takes another dent. Recession concerns are accelerating. Goldman Sachs places the odds of a US downturn at 45%, citing mounting tariff-related volatility. The S&P 500 has already skidded more than 15% since February, an unmistakable sign of growing unease. While Washington insists the tariffs are tactical leverage, global partners interpret them as erratic behavior. Enter China, the steady rival. While far from flawless, Beijing delivers predictability. For countries like Canada and the EU, it's not about ideology. It's about ensuring stability in an increasingly unpredictable trade landscape. And all these developments are now building toward a global shift that could send long-standing US alliances veering into unfamiliar territory. Verdict: trade tensions come full circle when tariffs turn against their maker. Trump's bold attempt to corner China with sweeping tariffs is now circling back like a boomerang. What started as a hard-hitting strike against Beijing has evolved into something far more consequential: a global recalibration, with America's closest economic allies now eyeing alternate routes that point toward China. This isn't a sudden U-turn, but even a slow redirection, especially in high-value sectors like oil, automotive components, and semiconductors, could have long-term consequences for the US. Automotive supply chains may shift, R&D centers could relocate, and lucrative contracts may favor reliability over legacy ties. Canada's energy exports, Germany's precision auto manufacturing, France's agricultural surpluses, none of these are guaranteed to default to the US anymore. These countries are adapting, not to provoke, but to protect. In today's fractured global economy, diversification isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Ironically, the US now faces the very uncertainty it once warned others about. The tariffs meant to demonstrate dominance may have signaled volatility instead, opening the door for China's quiet, calculated diplomacy to gain traction. Now we want to hear from you. Should Canada and the EU deepen ties with China? Could this impact your job, your business, or your industry? Is this just short-term turbulence or a permanent shift? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe to Highway Herald for more updates. Thanks for tuning in. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's more exciting and informative content waiting for you.